$1,000 steaks, $44 for a simple can of Coke, terrible service, and appalling customer reviews.
The viral sensation known as Salt Bae.
Salt Bae.
Salt Bae.
Salt Bae.
Salt Bae, aka Nusret Guche, the man who built up a billion-dollar empire in just a few years but is now on the verge of losing it all. How did it happen? Salt Bae was an overnight sensation, having amassed a valuable network of A-list celebrities, athletes, millions of followers, millions of dollars, and an empire of restaurants. All because of some salt. It all started on the 9th of December 1983 in the Kars province of Turkey. He grew up in a large family and from an early age he learned the value of hard work. His father was a miner and mother worked as a nurse, and even though both parents worked, they often struggled to make ends meet. Despite the challenges of his upbringing, he always had a passion for food. He had to leave school in 6th grade as the family couldn't afford it, and so this marked the beginning of his culinary journey. He started his career off as an apprentice at the butcher's, where he learned the art of meat cutting and butchery. He was a quick learner and soon became an expert in his field, but it wasn't enough. 4 years later, at the age of 17, Nusret moved to Istanbul, where he began working long hours and often late into the night. But he was determined to make a name for himself, and it was during this time that he developed his unique style of seasoning, which would later become his trademark. He then opened his first restaurant in 2010 called Nusr-Et in Istanbul. Now, up to this point, nothing about Salt Bae's story is unique. An up-and-coming chef creates a restaurant, pursues his passion, and aims to become successful. The story of Salt Bae may well have ended here, and it almost did. For Nusr-Et, the years 2010 to 2017 were completely barren. Nobody was truly aware of what he accomplished or what he was doing. He most likely used this time to hone his abilities and perfect his craft, but the attraction he had garnered at the time pretty much died down at this point. But at turning points like this, it separated the infamous Salt Bae from any other rags to riches story, as on January 7th, 2017, Salt Bae released a masterpiece that you and your entire family tree have probably seen. This video propelled him to unbelievable numbers. The name Salt Bae was everywhere. He went viral and became a meme through his bizarre and extravagant performances. He was a true showman, and with his iconic way of adding salt to the steak, it sealed the deal. Kids were doing it, footballers in their celebrations, the entire world knew of Salt Bae. Fame allowed him to expand not only his network of businesses, but it also allowed him to charge ridiculous prices, and although the food was mediocre at best, people just didn't care about the price tag, because they didn't come for the food, they came for Salt Bae. However, an important point to remember is that Salt Bae never acquired his fame because of his cooking skills, but because of a meme. So you've got to ask yourself, what happens when time passes and people begin to see through the facade and focus on what they're paying for, and if it's actually worth it? Well, you get controversies.
A few minutes after, the $2,000 steak arrived, and it was not what we expected. For $2 grand, I gotta say, I thought it would be way bigger. Right after, the tomahawk arrived. That was rare, even though we ordered medium rare. Now, there's nothing wrong with rare steak, but if you order medium rare, you should get what you paid for.
At £385, it's pushing my boundaries on a personal level of what I think is acceptable.
They do not care about anyone that isn't one of them. They're quick to fire people because they feel like millions of people want to work for Salt Bae, so firing you isn't a problem.
When we opened, they were giving me day shifts, the lunch shift, and the traffic during rush hour for lunch shift was nuts. So I literally went up to the manager and asked him, hey, what the hell are you doing? You know, I had more experience than the other people. I was committed to the job for longer. In the back of my mind, I knew it was because most of the other workers were Turkish. The majority of the people working at night, especially the bartenders, all spoke the language. They were very familiar with, Turkish culture. And I didn't say this earlier, but Salt Bae is Turkish. He's from Turkey. His first restaurant was in Istanbul. That's very successful. And his next most successful restaurant, I think, is in Dubai. But the point is, I wasn't going to grow a mustache or learn Turkish overnight.
His empire was starting to collapse, as accusations of arrogance towards fans, ridiculous bills, and poor attitude flew left, right, and center. And more influencers, former employees, and people who just wanted an experience came out to social media to express their dissatisfaction. The hype of Salt Bae attracted us to visit the restaurant. We left disappointed at the attitude and the service from the staff. Our table was disrupted while we was eating, and everything moved, only for the waiter to realize he had a dish for the wrong table. Now, I don't know about you, but this doesn't sound like a 5-star restaurant where people are charged thousands for some steak. But this sort of discrimination and poor service was just the tip of the iceberg that sank Salt Bae's ship. Once again, Salt Bae was face to face with cancellation in 2019. Salt Bae forced to pay $230,000 to ex-waiters for cutting them out of their tips and firing them when they complained. The men alleged that Guche pooled tips among unentitled staff and shaved a percentage off the total amount. Now this isn't only looked down on in the restaurant business, but it's also illegal. And considering the fact that Salt Bay's restaurants are catered to the top 1%, you can expect very generous tips. But these customers reasonably believed that 100% of the gratuity was being given to the waiters and other staff. And as some sort of stupid reward, employees instead received weekly checks of up to $2,500. That's while Nusr-Et would reportedly rake in $130,000 in just one night. People were starting to wake up and actually think about what they were spending their money on. And this became even more evident in the next controversy, in which a TikToker replicated Salt Bay's signature 4-figure gold tomahawk for under $100. Adding to the previous controversies, this gave people a rude awakening as to how much they were actually being scammed. The jig was up for Salt Bay. His signature dish was exposed and replicated for a decimal of the price. He was exposed for his discrimination and poor attitude towards certain groups of people. His food was mediocre and he was just an arrogant person. So on what foundation could his restaurant even stand on? As soon as people started to think logically, Salt Bay's social media presence, business, and name drastically died down. But he wasn't quite done yet, as in 2022, Salt Bay was involved in his most recent and embarrassing controversy that sealed the deal for his career. During the 2022 World Cup Finals in Argentina's win, Salt Bay somehow made his way onto the pitch. Consumed by all the clicks, potential relevancy, and money, it's safe to say that Salt Bay left a sour taste to the entire event. He yanked the players, basically forcing them to take pictures with him before they even got to celebrate the win with their family. Tried his absolute best to yank the trophy away from players and kiss it like he was the one who won it. And the media feedback for his behaviour was almost instant.
But the pitch side accreditation for the likes of this guy. But he was in all these pictures and you could just see a lot of the players just thinking, sod off.
Yeah.
Get lost. And this was a moment for the players, iconic photographs, and I'm sure they've got some. Families, fans were in the background. We didn't need, but Salt Bay, oh my God.
But nothing like he expected. People were outraged and cringed at desperate Salt Bay trying to obviously cling to any sort of relevancy. But as we near the end of this diabolical rags to riches story, only one question remains. Is this the tragic end of Salt Bay, or will he once again find his way back into the spotlight through another controversy? Only time will tell.